First and foremost, giving all honor, praise, and glory unto the Most High Power, Yahweh, and also giving honor and reverence to His Son, Yahweh Shai Mashiach, who the world calls Jesus Christ. Of course, I'm Chaarash Allah, and welcome to another Sons of Isaac Israelite Congregation weekly class. So tonight's lesson, we're going to be going into the law of the blood, going into the book of Leviticus chapter 17. Okay, and it deals with, the understanding of the blood. All right. So, nonetheless, of course, again, welcome. All praises to the Most High, and greetings and shalom to the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel that are scattered throughout North, Central, and South America, and also throughout the entire earth. So first off, I wanted to start in the book of Genesis, the book of Genesis, chapter 4. So we can go back into the history a little bit, or the beginning of creation of mankind. So now, the book of Genesis, chapter 4, and I'm gonna start at verse verse. I started verse. I started verse 4, and it says, "And Abel he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof, and the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth, and why is thy countenance fallen?" Right. So of course we see that this is speaking about Cain and Abel. All right, who were the sons of Adam. You see, Cain. Just brief. Cain's works were wicked, and then his brothers were righteous. All right. So of course, Abel brought the first thing of the flock, and then you see that Cain he brought the fruit of the ground to offer unto the Most High. All right. So now let's go. Let's continue to read on. So it says, verse 7: If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Right. So of course, the Lord is letting Cain know, man, that if you do well, you keep my commandments, guess what? You'll live. All right. Or you'll do well. Okay. But he said, if you do not well, then sin lies at the door. So he's basically warning Cain, man, if you don't get yourself right, if you don't keep these laws, then guess what? Sin lieth at your door. So remember, the scriptures say, what is the wages of sin? Sin equals death. All right, according to Romans chapter 6 and verse 23. So he says, unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. So he's talking about Satan's going to be to your desire, man, and he's going to rule over you. And Cain talked with Abel, his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field, Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, where is thy brother? Where is thy brother? Excuse me, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? So now you see Cain is not taking accountability, man, for what he had done. All right. So he murdered his brother in cold blood because he didn't like the correction that was being given to him. So as they say, the truth hurts, right? So he ended up killing Abel, his brother. All right. He didn't fess up to the murder. All right. So then let's read on verse 10. And it says, and he said, and he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. Right. So he said, for the voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. Right. So real quick, let's look up that word blood in the Hebrew real quick. So let's go to the book of Genesis 4 and we get 10. And the Hebrew word is dam. All right. So it is H1818. The Hebrew word is dam. All right. It's from 1826 compared to H119. It says blood as that which was shed as that which when shed causes death of man or animal. By analogy, the juice of the grape, figuratively, especially of the plural, blood shed. An example, drops of blood, guiltness, thirst, thirsty, or innocence, right? So, of course, it's showing you that it's dealing with the literal blood that is within your body, okay? So that's what it's talking about. So, of course, um, so it's showing you that he shed his brother's blood, and his brother's blood is crying from the ground. Why? Because the Lord is going to show us in the scriptures that blood is the life of the flesh. All right. That is why he said, "Your brother's blood crieth out from the ground." All right. So now, and it says, let's go back to verse 10, and it says. And he said, "What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground." So so Abel was a righteous man, and his blood was crying unto the Most High, right? And it says, "And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hands," right? So of course this is what is transpiring at this time, all right? So we said the earth has opened up to receive of your brother's blood. Okay. So now let's go to the book of Genesis. Well, let's stay in Genesis real quick and let's go to chapter 9. All right. So just to kind of give you a brief synopsis of what was happening in Genesis, we see that after the death of Abel, and Cain was cursed and cast out from the presence of the Most High. Cain did not repent, so of course he began to become a wicked one in the earth. The earth at that time, it began to become corrupt before the Most High. There was all type of bloodshed and mayhem going on in the earth, wars, things of that nature. And now you see the Most High is fed up. Okay, so then he brings this great flood and destroys the entire earth and all living beings that were on the face of the earth, right? Except for Noah, his family, and those who were, and those creatures that were on the ark with Noah himself. Okay, so now we see after the waters of the deluge abate, we see that now Noah Noah and the Most High, they're making a covenant. All right. So now let's get chapter 9, Genesis chapter 9, and we'll start at verse 4. And it says, But but flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. So of course he said the flesh, right? The flesh, right? And he says, the flesh, the life thereof, which is the blood, right? So the blood that flows through our veins, the Most High is saying what? He said we're not to eat of the blood, okay? So he's letting Noah know that you're not supposed to eat of the blood, right, that runs through your veins. All right. So, of course, you see that shows you, man, a lot of what was going on also, man, during the time before the flood came, man, and, all of the satanic and ritual practices that were going on, even before the flood came. All right. So the Most High, man, he's sitting here and he's letting it be known, man, that you're not to be an eater of the blood whatsoever. So let's read on. So he says, verse 5. And he says, "And surely your blood of your lives will I require at the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man." Right? So of course, the Most High is showing you here, as he says, surely your blood of your lives will I require, right? So when we commit sin, when we commit iniquity, remember, our blood was supposed to be spilled in place of transgressing the Heavenly Father's laws, right? So then he says, "At the hand of every beast will I require it." So in place of that, in place of us dying, the Most High said, "All right, well, you know what? I'm going to require animal sacrifice instead of your blood being shed. You can shed you'll shed the blood of the beast in which I told you to shed, right? Remember the clean beast, all right, the oxen, the lamb, the goat, so on and so forth. All right. So he said, at the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of a man, at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. All right. So speaking about the aspect of judgment too. So then he says, verse 6, whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. Right. So the Most High let you know that if a man he murders another man, then the judgment is that his blood has to be shed. Okay. So remember, there is no sacrifice that a man could give for being a murderer of his brother. All right. So he had to just pretty much he had to die. All right. So that's what the Most High is definitely showing us, man, dealing with the aspect of, animal sacrifice. So remember, when you read in the judgments, right, real quick, let's go to the book of Leviticus. Let me show you something. Leviticus chapter 20, dealing with the judgments, the Lord says this. And he says, so this is Leviticus chapter 20, and I'm going to read verse 11. And the man that lieth with his father's wife hath uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them, right? So we're showing you there when he says their blood shall be upon them, meaning that there is no sacrifice that they would have been able to give in to be able to atone for that sin that they committed in particularly, all right? So remember, if it was adultery, you know what I'm saying, any type of aspect that falls under the lines of fornication, dealing with incest and all of that, of course, I said adultery already, bestiality, you know what I'm saying? Those things, a man had to be put to death automatically, all right? There was no sacrifice that he could offer. The Lord shows us the different sacrifices that we were able to atone for, the type of transgressions that we were able to atone for by the use of the sacrifices and the blood of those animals. Okay, so now let's go back to Genesis real quick, and I'll read verse 6 one more time. So it says, whosoever sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. All right, so that's pretty much self-explanatory in itself. All right, the Most High does not does not acquit any murderers whatsoever. All right. Now, do brothers that have done those type of things, do they have the opportunity and chance to repent through the blood of Yahweh Shai? Absolutely. All right. By his sacrifice, yes, we receive mercy and grace to where we can atone for those type of iniquities we did before we had the true understanding. All right, the knowledge of this truth. So now let's go back to Leviticus, and let's get chapter 3. Leviticus chapter 3. So Leviticus chapter 3, and I want to read verse 17 before I go completely into the chapter, Leviticus chapter 17. I'm going to pull out some scriptures real quick. So it says here, Leviticus chapter 3 and verse 17, and it says, it shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings, that ye eat neither fat nor blood. All right. So the Lord shows us that, of course, and it is in our laws that we don't eat fat. So that means, of course, you got to be very careful when you have foods, right, or meats that that do contain fat. Remember, we're not to consume the fat. Remember, the fat belongs to the Lord. All right. So that's why we take the time out and we cut all of the fat, man, that that is around the areas of the meat. Okay. Of our food or whatnot. So of course, and then he says neither the blood. So that's why we always make sure that when we get our meat, right, the meat that we do buy or purchase, we try to make sure that it is completely drained of the blood. All right. So so that of course that we're not in violation of the Heavenly Father's law. All right, when it's pertaining to this, in particularly. Okay. So one more time. So it says, and it shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings, that ye eat neither fat nor blood. Okay. So now let's go to chapter 7, stay in Leviticus. We'll hit chapter 7 and we'll get verse 26. So the Lord always, he always, reminds us, man, when he's giving us his sacrifice. And that reminds me, I'll be going into, I believe in the next couple of weeks, I'm going into the law of sacrifice, and it'll be for this, for the weekly class, so everybody will be able to get an understanding of it. So, chapter 7, and we'll get verse 26. And it says, boom, 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 let me see. Yeah. Moreover, ye shall eat no manner of blood, whether it be of a fowl or of beast, in any of your dwellings. So he says, so that now you see the Lord is saying that we're not to eat any manner of blood. All right. So if we have the meat and it's still blood in it, you know what I mean? So like, just like you see white folk, right? You see how white folk when they cook their steaks or whatever the case may be, you see that when you cut their steak open or whatnot, it still be dripping blood in the middle of it, right? They like it medium rare, so on and so forth, right? Raw, medium rare, you know what I mean? Rare, but all of that, you still see the blood in it, right? So the Lord said we're not to eat any manner of blood. So our meat should not contain the life of the flesh. All right. It should not still be in it. We have to make sure that the meat is completely drained of the blood. All right. So he says, whether it be a fowl, so remember the chicken that we eat, or any beast, right? The lamb, goat, oxtails, whatever meat that we eat, it cannot contain the blood of the animal. All right. So let's read verse 27. He says, whatsoever soul it be that eateth any manner of blood, even that soul shall be cut off from his people. So the Lord takes this very serious. So he said, if you eat any manner of blood, he said he will cut you off. All right. So the Most High is letting us know, man, he already told us the purpose of what the blood was for. All right. The blood was for us to be able to do what? Atone for our iniquity. That's what he told Noah. All right. But now he goes into a little bit more detail when we go into the book of Leviticus 17 or chapter 17. All right. So now from there, let's hit 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 14, and we'll get verse 32. All right. 1 Samuel chapter 14, and we'll get verse 32. And it says, and the people flew upon the spoil and took sheep and oxen and calves and slew them on the ground, and the people did eat them with the blood, right? So of course how can I put it? This is when the Philistines were still oppressing the children of Israel, and they were still ruling, over the southern kingdom of Israel. So now you see that, of course, Saul, he's in power, and now he's going against the Philistines, man, to try to deliver our people from the Philistines. So now, of course, the people are famished or whatnot. So then he says, so then this is what Saul says in verse 28. And then answered one of the people and said, thy father straightly charged the people with an oath, saying, cursed be the man that eateth any food this day. And the people were faint. So, as you can see, his men were faint. All right. So then it says, then said Jonathan, my father hath troubled then said Jonathan, my father has troubled the land. See, I pray you, how mine eyes have been enlightened, because I taste a little of this honey, right? So of course, Jonathan obviously didn't hear of the oath, all right, which his father had proclaimed, all right, and he did taste honey. So that means the oath would have been pretty much broken. So then it says, how much more if haply the people had eaten freely today, if the spoil, of the spoil of their enemies which they found, for had there not been now a much greater slaughter among the Philistines, and they smote the Philistines that day from Michmash to Ajalon, and the people were very faint, so they were tired from the battle and the war. All right. So then it says, so this is what happened. And the people flew upon the spoil and took the sheep and the oxen and the calves and slew them on the ground. And the people did eat them with the blood. So they were so hungry, man, that they consumed the animal, man, while there was still blood contained within the meat. All right. So we remember what the Lord said in his law, you know what I mean, about you cannot eat any manner of blood, right? Whether it be of the fowl or whether it be of the oxen, right? And the judgment was that you will be cut off if you did. And it says in verse 33, then they told Saul, saying, behold, the people sinned against the Lord. So to showing you that it was a transgression for them to eat the blood. And it says, behold, the people sinned against the Lord in that they eat with the blood. So they were eating with the blood, all right? The blood that was still within the meat, man. They still slew those animals, and they were still, they weren't completely drained. So it says, ye have transgressed, roll a great stone unto me this day. And Saul said, disperse yourselves among the people and say unto them, bring me hither every man his ox and every man his sheep, and slay them here and eat, and sin not against the Lord in eating with the blood, right? So again, it shows you, man, that the eating with the blood was intolerable, man. You cannot do it, all right? It was a transgression against the Heavenly Father. The Lord already said, no, you do not, because why? The blood contains the life, and we're going to show you why it contains the life. All right. I read in First Samuel chapter 14. I read 28 to 34. 28 to 34. So I kind of like bumped up a little bit and read a little bit. So now let's go to the book of Deuteronomy. Let's go to the law. Let's go back to the law, shall I say. Deuteronomy chapter 12. Deuteronomy 12, and we'll get verse 23. And it says, only be sure that thou eat not the blood, for the blood is the life, and thou mayest not eat the life with the flesh. Right? So he said, for the blood is the life, and you may not eat the life with the flesh. All right. So the Most High said that you were to drain the blood, all right, from the meat. Okay, and then you were able to partake of the meat. All right. So eating the blood was completely out of the question, right? So what did they have to do? Verse 24, thou shalt not eat it, thou shalt pour it upon the earth as water. So we're supposed to pour out the blood upon the earth, okay, as water. All right. So now let's go to the book of Leviticus chapter 17. So let's stay in the law. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 17, and we'll start at verse 1. All right, so I hope everybody's following along with me. So I'm in the book of Leviticus chapter 17, and I'm going to read verse 1, and it says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his sons and unto all the children of Israel, and say unto them, this is the thing which the Lord hath commanded, saying, what man soever there be of the house of Israel that killeth an ox or lamb or goat in the camp, or that killeth it out the camp, and bring it not unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation to offer an offering unto the Lord before the tabernacle of the Lord, blood shall be imputed unto that man. He hath shed blood, and that man shall be cut off from among his people. All right. So again, this is of course, the Lord is showing you, man, what happened if you did not bring the sacrifice unto the tabernacle, the congregation. And hold on one second. And he's going to show you why, all right, in verse 5. Yes.
That has to do with the tenth share of the Levites, right?
Yes. Okay. Right. So remember, the sacrifices were to do with the Levites, all right? That was their gift from the Most High. All right, that's how they sustain themselves. Okay, so now let's continue reading. So we said blood would be inputted to the man that killed, right, or that tried to offer sacrifice outside of the camp. All right, and they didn't bring it unto the Levitical priest. All right, as they should. Okay, so then it says, the blood shall be imputed unto that man, and he hath shed blood, and that man shall be cut off from among his people, to the end that the children of Israel may bring their sacrifices which they offer in the open field, even that they may bring them unto the Lord, unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, unto the priest, and offer them for the peace offering unto the Lord, right? So these sacrifices were made to be peace offerings unto the Lord. So these things, of course, were also required, all right, for the people to do. Okay, so remember, it was to show that they weren't selfish or anything like that. All right, so they were supposed to help out their brothers, the Levites. All right, because remember, that's how they sustain themselves. So don't look at it as you're just taking care of those brothers that's in the temple. No, you're helping out an entire tribe of, what I'm saying, of Levites. Not only them, but also the sons of Aaron too, that numbered, as a great multitude as well. All right. So it says, verse 6, and the priest shall sprinkle the blood upon the altar of the Lord at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and burn the fat for a sweet savor unto the Lord. So you see, they sprinkled the blood upon the altar, right? And of course, and it says, and they burn the fat for a sweet savor unto the Lord. So that was the purpose of what the fat was for, right? To be burnt unto the Most High. So he says at verse 7, and they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring, right? So of course, that's why the Lord said, man, if any man kills an oxen, what I'm saying, a lamb or a goat outside of the camp, right? And don't bring it unto the Lord, then he said blood will be imputed to that man, because that's what our people were doing. They were shedding blood, all right, and they were sacrificing or giving these sacrifices unto these no gods, these strange gods, all right. They sacrifice, like the Most High said, they sacrifice unto devils. So he says, and they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring. This shall be a statute forever unto them throughout their generations, right? Verse 8, and thou shalt say unto them, whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers which sojourneth among you, that offereth a burnt offering or sacrifice, and bring it not unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, to offer it unto the Lord, even that man shall be cut off from among his people. Right? So as you can see, the Lord was very serious, man, about bringing them sacrifices, right? So he said, if you didn't bring it, whether you was an Israelite, whether you was a stranger or a heathen, if you didn't bring it, your behind was cut off from among your people. All right. Verse 10. And whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, that eateth any manner of blood, I will even set my face against that soul that eateth blood, and will cut him off from among his people. Right. So whether you was of the stranger, right, or whether you was of the house of Israel, whether you know you would be cut off if you ate any manner of blood. All right. The Most High said he would set his face against you for doing that. So that's why you see a lot of them Hamites is jacked up even to this very day, man, because remember, many of their rituals deal with them eating, what I'm saying, drinking of the blood, right? So now let's read on. Verse 11. For the life of the flesh is in the blood. So now, why is the life of the flesh in the blood now? Miss Allah?
That's for souls.
Huh?
That's for souls.
Close, not quite yet. What does that mean? He said, for the life of the flesh is in the blood.
It's what keeps you alive.
Right. It's just what keeps you alive. Remember, the soul, of course, the soul, fuels the body, right? Of course, it ignites the blood, it gets the blood flowing and all of that within us, okay? That's what the soul does, man. Remember, the soul is that fire, man, that's burning within us. You see what I'm saying? Remember, it animates everything that's in our body now, right? But there's something that the blood does for the body, you know what I'm saying? That's very essential, man. That's why the Most High calls it the life, right? What do people use the blood for nowadays?
You're not supposed to use blood for anything because there's no more animal
Well, what
sacrifice.
do you use the blood for now in today's time? What are some of the things that they
Blood
do?
transfusions.
Blood transfusions, okay.
The
Because you
heathens,
need blood to live, all right.
yeah, the
What else?
heathens use it to drink and to make
Okay,
sacrifices
the
with.
heathens use it to drink, but what else does the blood do within your body?
It fights off diseases,
Bingo,
viruses, and infections.
bingo, bingo, right? It fights off diseases, viruses, and certain infections. It clots so that you don't bleed out. You know what I mean? What about DNA? Right?
It tells you who your father is and who your mother
Exactly. All
is.
right. It's so pretty much, man. When you look at the aspect of the blood, right? Blood is pretty much dealing with your DNA, right? So it's transmitting the genetic information, man. So say for instance, that's how you can go and backtrack, man. Who my fathers are, right? So say for instance, if they dig up bones in Jerusalem, you know what I mean. Remember, there was blood in the bone marrow too, right? So they could take the blood that's in that bone marrow, right? Um, pretty much like do the test or whatnot, and then they be able to take that blood and then they be able to tie it to Negroes over here in America, right? So they'd be like, well, damn, that's why I say it's called the genetic. It's called it's like a building block for us, all right. So remember, it transmits the information, man. So everything that's in your blood, that's why they do like blood tests, right, or DNA tests, or what do they call them? Yeah, paternity tests. They'll use the blood. If they don't use the saliva, they'll use the blood, right? So, of course, what else? So remember, that's just a part of the life of the flesh, all right? Your DNA, your blood. Okay, what else?
What else is it used for?
Yeah.
It's used for research purposes. People use it to, because I remember one time you told me about a woman who had, it was in her blood.
Right, Henrietta Lacks.
Yes.
She had the immortal blood cell.
To cure, what was it?
Huh?
What was it that she could cure?
I
Was it
feel.
cancer?
No, I forget what it was, but she basically, after she was long dead, her blood cells still continued to I forget, like to complete to basically to continue to like to reproduce, to multiply, right? So like after she was long dead, her blood was still vibrant, moving or whatnot, right? So that's why they call it the immortal blood, the immortal blood cells, right? Of course, well, what about the plasma? The plasma is the fluid, right, that carries the blood, right? So of course, what about like the red blood cells? What do the red blood cells do?
Um, they fight for your body when you're sick.
So basically, red blood cells, they carry oxygen to your tissue, right? So pretty much your skin, right? That's what the red blood cells do, right? It
It
carries
heals
oxygen,
scabs and
right?
sores.
Scars, scabs, sores, and things of that nature. All right, that's how you're able to heal. You know what I'm saying? So fast, right? Because the blood is what what I'm saying. It repairs you. Okay, so that's why when you get a cut or whatnot, and then you see a blood, so then you see like the pallets, right? That's like what? That's what prevents prevents blood clotting, right? So that you don't die or whatnot. But of course, the red blood cells, like you said, they pretty much uh, heal you. All right. So then, what about white blood cells?
Those are cells you need in case you get sick.
Exactly. So white blood cells do what?
Fighting
They
stuff.
their defense. They
Defense.
fight off the sicknesses and the diseases. That's why, of course, when people get like AIDS or HIV, You know, those type of diseases, they destroy those white blood cells. So if you no longer have those white blood cells in your body, then what happens?
You can't fight it off.
You can't fight off the diseases. You can't even fight off a cold. And that makes you subject to sickness, man, so that, you die. All right. So basically, that medication is pretty much there to keep your white blood cells, man, in defense mode, or try to help your white blood cells, you know what I'm saying, recreate themselves so that you can fight off the disease or prolong your life or whatnot, without being as sick as often. Okay. So of course, that's why the Lord said, man, the blood, which is the life, which is the life of the flesh. Excuse me. For the life of the flesh is in the blood. All right. And he says, and I have given it unto you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. Right. So of course, the Lord has also given us the blood to be able to make atonement for the iniquities that we have done. Right. So then, let me see. Boom, boom, boom. So then he says, for it is the blood that maketh an atonement for your soul, right? So that's why, you know what I'm saying? Like, say, for instance, the aspect of Yahweh Shai, right? The blood was very important for us. Okay. So real quick, let's go to let's hit chapter 16 real quick. And let's check out verse 30. I'm gonna bring this one out right here. So it says, For on the day, for on that day shall the priest make an atonement for you to cleanse you, that ye may be clean for all your from all your sins before the Lord. And it shall be a Sabbath of rest unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls by a statute forever. So that's basically talking about the Day of Atonement. But like he said, man, he says, of course, the priest shall make an atonement for your soul, right? When he uses the blood, all right? When he used the blood. Okay, so now fast forwarding to Yahweh Shai. So we said in that time, the high priest was who made, who basically atoned for the sins of the people, right? To cleanse us, right? And now you see Christ is the one who does the same thing for us. You see what I'm saying? So remember, Christ is the new high priest. Christ is the one who, pretty much offered himself up, and he became, he became the pretty much the one to cleanse us of our iniquity. All right. So now let's read on. So then he says, therefore I say unto you, the children of Israel, no soul of you shall eat blood, neither any stranger that sojourneth among you eat blood. All right. He says, and whatsoever man there be of the children of Israel, or of the stranger that sojourneth among you, which hunteth and catcheth any beast or fowl that may be eaten, right? He shall even pour out the blood thereof and cover it with dust. All right, so it's showing you that once you kill the animal, you drain the blood of the animal, you pretty much you cover up the blood with the dust. All right. So then it says, for it is the life of all flesh, the blood, for it is for the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, ye shall eat of the blood of no manner of flesh. So we are not to eat of any blood at all, of any type of flesh. Okay. And he says, for the life of the all flesh is the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth it shall be cut off. All right. So it's showing you that there's a judgment. All right. So those people, man, who sit there and say, well, I like my steak bloody and all of that, they're eating of the blood. They're in violation. They're in transgression. All right. So he says, and every soul that eateth that which dieth of itself, or of that beast which is torn with beasts, it shall be one of your own country, or a stranger. He shall both wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean unto the even. Then shall he be clean. All right. Well, that's something else. But of course, I just wanted to show, man, about the blood. Let's get a few precepts to go into. So remember, the blood makes an atonement for the soul. All right. So that's why it's the life of the flesh. So remember, like as I said before, when I go into the lesson on sacrifice, it'll pretty much explain, the purpose of those animals and things of that nature, right? Go into a little deeper meaning of it. So of course we know that the first covenant that was established with our fathers, that was a blood covenant, all right? So there were sacrifices that were made, the people were cleansed, all right, and then of course the covenant was made. Of course, let's go to Hebrews chapter 9 and verse 4. I mean, verse 7. Hebrews 9 and 7. Get that. And it says, but unto the second went the high priest alone once every year, not without blood, which he offered for himself and for the heirs of the people. So that's what we had read in the book of Leviticus 16, and I believe in verse 30, right? And he says, boom, 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 boom. No, that was it. So of course, that's showing you, man, that the blood always made an atonement, man, for our people. All right. So the high priest could not do anything without making an atonement for himself and for the children of Israel. All right. So then, of course, you can write these down. This is in Hosea chapter 8 and verse 13, and that's dealing with, the cannibalism of the northern kingdom. And then also Psalms 106, 37, and verses 38. All right. So that's also dealing with the aspect of cannibalism that, of course, the children of Israel learned from, the other nations, right? So remember, the Lord said that we were not to do after the ordinances of the heathen, right? Or any manner of custom that they practice. So, our people, remember, they mingled themselves amongst the heathen and they learned their works. They began to sacrifice their sons and their daughters unto devils. Okay, so they spilled the blood of their own children, to appease the gods of the other nations. You know what I mean? So that's why when you look at like the Aztec, the Mayan culture, when you look at all of the cultures of Mesoamerica, you'll see that what did they all do? They all practice a form of human sacrifice, right? Where they sacrifice thousands of people unto their pagan gods. You see? So that was one of the that's why the most high man had basically afflicted the northern kingdom the way that he did, all right, while they were over here. Okay. So are there any questions? You got any
Hosea
questions? It was Hosea chapter 8 and verse 13, and then Psalms 106, 37, and 38.
Okay.
So you can definitely just go over and go over those chapters and read them, and get a little bit of understanding about them. All right. So of course, that's why you know the blood, of course, is important. The blood is the life. The blood is for the atonement, man. Of our sins and of our iniquity. So without the shedding of blood, remember it says here in Hebrews, it says 9:22. It says, and almost all things are by law purged with blood, and without the shedding of blood is no remission. So there is no forgiveness if blood is not shed, right? So that's why, in order for us to be forgiven now, remember Christ, he gave his life and his blood was shed, in the place of those animals. Okay. So remember, that's why it says, I'll read it here again in 9. He says, neither by the blood of bulls, of goats and calves, but by his own blood he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of heifers sprinkled the unclean sanctifieth to the purifying of the flesh. So if those things purified us when we were in iniquity and sinned, right, or in our trespasses, he says, verse 14, how much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living God. Right. So again, that is the importance, man, of why, Yahweh Shai, man, gave his life. Okay. So pretty much, it's like the blood of bulls and goats couldn't do nothing for us, man. That's why I said, when I go into sacrifice, you'll see how at one point it was effective. Remember, it's still righteous. It's still a part of the law, But at the end of the day, man, they got abused. You know, so just like say, for instance, the Christian church, they abuse the grace that's being given to us now, right? You know, oh, I messed up. Well, you know what? I'll fall off, continue doing what I'm doing. I'll come back and praise God, because I'm covered by the blood of Jesus. I'll go and sleep with that brother's wife, you know what I mean? Come and say I'm sorry to the Lord on Sunday and go back to doing whatever I was doing, whatever wickedness I was doing, you know what I'm saying, the prior month ago. So it's like grace is abused too, man. So it's in the same fashion how animals, sacrifice was pretty much, abused. Okay. And then how the Most High said, you know what, enough is enough. I'm no longer going to accept sacrifices. And you know what? I'm done with it. So that was like even the whole purpose, man. That's why Christ had to be made manifest. You know what I mean? So that he could, man, destroy the works of the devil. The works of the devil was sin. All right. So you know, that's pretty, huh? You know, so of course, that's pretty much the lesson. The lesson for the night. Dealing with the laws of the blood, man. Go make sure you go back over your notes. Um, you know, Definitely go and research the blood and the importance of it. You know what I mean? There's more to it, of course, but it's only so much I can fit into an hour. So, so of course, definitely go back and do your research and see why or see how important the blood is to the body, right? Remember, that's why the Lord called it the life of the flesh. So even a lot of the customs and rituals of the nations, so one, it's like like certain customs of certain heathen nations. They're going to, showing you that that when you drank the blood of your enemies, right, you took on their soul, their spirit, right, and it gave you strength. The same thing as if they, like say for instance, like the Aztecs, right, they drank the blood of the beast that they killed, and they believed that they would take on the spirit of that animal. You see what I'm saying? So it's even in the same effect of how when we don't drain the blood of the beast that we eat, you'll see that we take on the spirit of that animal, man. So if it died in a miserable manner, it was depressed before it died, then remember that's in its blood, that's in its DNA. You know what I mean? So that means, of course, that means that energy is in us now. You know what I mean? The spirit of the depressed spirit of that animal is in us. So that's why we be messed up, man, a lot. So of course, we definitely want to be mindful, you know what I'm saying, of our food and the things that we do consume. The nations, man, you read about a lot of the customs of the nation. They got blood sausage, um, they got blood sickles and all of that stuff, man. They have like little blood tonics, when they cut the snake and then squeeze the blood out of the snake and then they just, drink it nice and hot and, they feel like, oh yeah, they get healing properties from it. Why do they believe they get healing properties from it? Because the blood is the life of the flesh. They know that principle, you see? So that's why, just like you have brought out, right? The healing properties that the blood has. You see what I'm saying? The red blood cells, red and white blood cells and stuff. So it's not rocket science, but nonetheless, man, it's very important for us to, to understand, right? So, all praise to the Most High, all glory and honor to, Yahweh Shai, his son. Of course, we'll close out there and, thank you, brothers and sisters, for definitely tuning in. And, for another weekly class, make sure that you like and subscribe, share with your friends the information, leave your comments. Um, and continue to support the teachers of the Most High and those who teach in sincerity and in truth, man, and teach according to the laws of the Most High. So of course, uh, we'll close out and we'll say shalom to the nation of Israel, the so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans.